Greetings. Thanks for stopping by. Health and happiness to you. I'm Skol, and today we're going to look at the Raccoon 2.0. This is the new one, the 2.0, and here's a Raccoon version 1.0. We're going to do a tabletop, and there's actually 17, I count 17, changes between the old one and the new one. These are both top liner locks. And 4 of those 17 are substantial, significant engineering changes that make the new one more than twice as strong. So I'll show you exactly what all that is. First, let's look at what the company's saying. So here's the Raccoon version 1.0, and then the Raccoon version 2.0 on the side. And here's a little marketing graphic that they have online with their knives on the 2.0, showing you just some of the differences. So the first one here adjusted the hardware position, and we'll just look on the screen. They're saying that the thumb stud has moved down, so it's tucked in but not touching the scale. Next up, they're saying they added jimping, and they're pointing right there. So yes, there is jimping there, but there's also jimping that they've added forward. They've taken the jimping here and extended it, and they've also added jimping back on the new backspacer, which you can see there. They're also pointing out that they've got a recessed platform, so the old button sticks up higher, and I will show you all of this on the hardware, but for now we're just pointing out what they've shown on their graphic. The new button is lower, and they've milled out a little bit of space so you can push it down lower. The old one has internal milled liners, so they've milled out the micarta scale, and then they've tucked the liner up into the scale. And then on the new one, it's not internally milled. Instead, it's just laying flush. So exposed skeletonized liner on the new one, and it's also thicker, which they don't say, but we'll get to that. Standoffs, they have a standoff and a standoff pin on the old one, and the new one has a backspacer. So that's what they're showing you on their marketing graphic. Before we get into the comparison, first I'll show you what comes in the box. So I think I'll start showing what comes in the box try to when there's some good stuff. So you get a pouch, and it's got a leather sewn on Vosteed logo, and they give you a cleaning cloth. I got a couple of Vosteeds that always came with the orange one. Vosteed cleaning cloth. Also got a raccoon sticker in each of the boxes. So this one is dressed up as a cowboy with a gun and a cowboy hat. And over here we've got, I think it's a miner, because he's got a hard hat and that looks like a light up on his helmet. So that might be a miner. And they include a raccoon in all their boxes. So that's like their company mascot. They always go with the raccoon because that's been their top selling flagship model. So now we're up to 2.0. In software terms, when you have a new version of a software, you start off with version 1, and then you might have a version 1.1 and 1.2, or you might even have hundreds of software upgrades or software patches or whatever. It could be like software version 1.135, so you've had 1,000 software upgrades. But when you go up to 2.0, in software terms, that's supposed to mean you did something substantially different to jump up to a new version. So do they achieve that with the Raccoon version 2.0? And yes, there are, as I mentioned, 4 substantial engineering changes internally, and I will show you exactly what all those are. So let's jump right in. First up is the thumb stud. So the thumb stud is now tucked in, and that gets it out of the way of your cutting path. It gets you out of the way of your sharpening path. When you're sharpening, you have a sharpening belt. You got your thumb stud out of the way better. And it is not touching the scale, but it's tucked in pretty close. You can see daylight under the thumb stud, so it's not touching. Next up, number 2 is the jimping. So the old one, the blue one is the old one, had jimping right there above the thumb stub, and that's it. And on the new one, actually side by side, is in focus, you can see substantially extended the jimping above the thumb stud. And then you get jimping up here, forward finger position. So when you stick your finger out, now it can land on some nice jimping. And when you use your thumb here, you've got extended jimping. And then there's jimping here under the choil flat spot. And the jimping does go through the micarta and through the metal, as you can see. So the grooves go all the way through, and that's nice feeling jimping there as well. And then you got some jimping you can feel on the backspacer. So I'm counting that out of the 17 as 4, because that's substantially increased, so that counts as 1, 2, 3, 4 places of jimping. Next up is a recessed button. So first I'll show you how far the button stuck out. The old one is the blue one. You can see the button sticks out much farther. Can you see that? There you can see it. The blue one sticks out much farther, and then they've milled out a little bit of material right here next to the thumb stud so that you can push down in farther, and that push it all the way in down into that recessed area to disengage your lock. And does the new thumb stud work good? One reason the Raccoon became so popular and a big mega hit in the market is because it had really good action. Thumb studs work good, and it still works good. And it's now tucked in. Next up is the liners. So these are recessed liners, but the leaf bar spring material, which is just part of the liner that's bent out, and compare it to the new one, you can visually see without any question that the new liners are thicker. So just look here at this shiny leaf spring, and then look at the leaf spring there. You can visually see without question, without using the calipers, you can see it's substantially thicker. And then you can see that the lock bar here is the same thickness as the whole liner. And the reason you can't see it there is because it's recessed in. Next up is, so the liners are thicker, and now they are flush. Backspacer. So the old one, now there was a version, the plunge lock original 1.0 had a micarta backspacer, and then when they went to the top liner lock, which has a leaf spring actuated by a button, they switched to the standoff design. So you got one standoff fastened by a screw, by a torque screw, and then you have a standoff pin that's not fastened. So is that a good design? Normally what I would want is the standoffs to be spread apart for more stability. So you got your pivot as a point of stability to a backspacer here, and then if you had another backspacer here, that would create a triangular area, a triangle of stability, platform of stability. And what do you get when you have a backspacer? You can go from the pivot to this front edge of the backspacer, and then to this back edge of the backspacer. That's where you're getting your triangle of stability. So the new one has a good triangle of stability, and the old one, this was actually a below average design. So look at this. There's nothing, can you see? There's nothing supporting, like right here. If you pinched right here, what's supporting that? Nothing. All the force is going with leverage way over there and way down to the pivot, but here on this corner, there's nothing really supporting it when you pinch it, except for these two. Plus they're so close together, which isn't good. And one of them's not even fastened. So that's kind of below average actually for strength. But now they're fully up to snuff. This backspacer is better than any standoff design. So standoffs are fine. Here's a Benchmade North Fork that I carried in my pocket, and here's the standoffs are nicely spread apart to give you a triangular platform of stability. This one has been in my pocket. Go look at my video called 1000 Days of Carry Club, and I have several knives that I've carried for over 3 years worth of time. So 365 times 3 gets you over 1,000. Over 1,000 separate days I've carried this in my pocket, and standoffs are fine. And the benefit of standoffs, open construction, easier to clean. It doesn't collect lint as much, more lightweight, so that's why they do it. But what do you get with a backspacer, partial backspacer? Adding a full backspacer would be even more weight, but more strength. But where do you, if you just have a partial backspacer that rounds the corner, you're getting more strength. You can't compress that, and that's not going to flex as much. It's more sturdy, and is that hard to clean? I don't think so. I can get in there with a Q-tip, or I could just blow it out super easy. So, but a full backspacer, you might get a lot of lint. So that's what somebody might complain, but I prefer backspacers myself, even though they are a little bit heavier. And we will get to that. Let's move on. Backspacer is an upgrade. The chamfer. So the best place to see this, they've just changed the angle of the chamfer design. And if you look here in the finger groove, that's where you see it most easily. You can see that the angle, you can see there's a lot more visible there. So they've steepened the angle, but they've steepened it all the way around. So what's the point of doing that? Well, they found a better angle to chamfer at that has made it feel more rounded. So I can roll this around against my palm, and it's feeling nice and rounded. And when I do it with the other one, I can just feel it's more of a blocky feel. Now this is chamfered, so something that's completely rectangle with 90-degree edges can be uncomfortable, and so that's why you went around the edges or chamfer the edges. This is chamfered and comfortable, but have they made it even more comfortable and found a better chamfer angle? I think they did that. It's more rounded. It feels more ergonomically comfortable. Next up is the pocket clip. So what have they changed on the pocket clip? They do still have a logo. I know some people don't like any branding at all on their pocket clip because that's what sticks out of the pocket, and they don't want names or logos, but that's pretty small and subdued. That is more subdued. You can, if someone's looking at that from a distance, they probably can't even see that very subdued logo, small logo. Not so bad, but I think the general preference of pocket clip people is to not have a logo. I actually don't care myself. I'm just saying what pocket clip people like, because I actually just put it down in my pocket and don't use the pocket clip. But anyway, what has changed here? It's about 2 millimeters higher, so you're getting a deeper carry. So they've gone over the entire tip to heel and made many minor improvements, but they've also made several major substantial improvements. But what have they done on the pocket clip? It's about 2 millimeters higher. So if I put my thumb across there at the top and there, you should be able to see you're getting less sticking up out of your pocket just by 2 millimeters. And especially compare it to the hole. So see, you're here below the hole on the old one, and here you're right up in the middle of the hole, so you've gone higher. And they've also changed the angle slightly. So I think they nudged it up, and then they tried to center it, so they also changed the angle just slightly. But that doesn't really help anything. And I thought, did they change the angle for ergonomics? But I couldn't noticeably tell. I already rolled them around in my hands plenty, and I couldn't really tell any difference ergonomically. So it's just something to point out. It's at a slightly different angle. So that's it for the pocket clip. And also that's still flush and milled in, so it's completely flush with the liner on both. That's not a change, and you still have a filler tab on both. Next up is the lanyard hole. So the green one is new on the left, the blue one is the older one. The new hole is bigger. I'm putting them as close as I can together, and with your eyes, see if you can tell. I can tell, I'm looking at the camera, that the one on the left is bigger. Just try to focus visually. You should be able to see that the new hole is slightly bigger. So that's just something to point out for the lanyard people. So people that like to put a lanyard decoration on, here's a nicely trimmed piece of lanyard, melted and trimmed nice. Goes through the old hole without too much trouble. And on the new hole that's bigger, it's only going to be even easier. So there you go. But what about this kind where you have to feed 2 strands through the same hole? Why would they make it a little bit bigger? Well, I think you can get 2 strands, but not by pushing. What I would do if I wanted to put this on here, and the way this works is you feed it through, you loop it around, and then you tuck it through and pull it tight, and then you'll have a little lanyard sticking off of there if you want this style. I think with a fancy bead, you can actually make a good decoration sometimes. So for lanyard people, if you wanted to pull that through the new hole, tie a string, and if you're a lanyard person, you probably already know this. Tie a string around there and feed the string through the hole and then pull it through. That can help you get it in there. A little bit easier because the hole is bigger. And I know paracord can squish down a little bit. So if it looks bulky here, it can squish down a bit until I think it'll probably fit through there. Next up is, well, we're talking about lanyards. Might as well tell this real fast. So what I like lanyards best myself for, actually this is a better example. These are the same. I have a bunch of slips, and some slips come with a metal eyelet. So these are the same slip, but I can tell which knife is in each slip for a slip joint. With these lanyards are color coded, so I know my black slip joint is in here, and I've got a blue one in there. So I've got it color coordinated even across the room. I know which slip joint that is, and I can tell by color coordinating. Another way that slip joint people color coordinate their pocket slips is you can do it by the color of the leather and by the color of the stitching. Other ways, I know what's in here because I know that's my abalone. I got colors that match my abalone one, so I know this is the abalone one. Anyway, we were talking about lanyards, bigger lanyard hold. Went off on a little lanyard tangent there, but now we're back. Next up is probably the most significant engineering change is the stop pin. And 3 things about the stop pin. 1, the stop pin is further back. 2, the stop pin is bigger and beefier stop pin. And 3, which relates more or partially to the liners, since the liners are thicker, you have a thicker metal holding each side of the stop pin. So in 3 different ways, this is more robust. Now let's talk about placement, movement of the stop pin. What did they do? So here, this first pin is actually attached to your button actuator. So that's nothing more than a button attached all the way to the leaf spring. The next one, that's your stop pin in the closed position. So it swings around, and the heel of the blade is touching that stop bar. And then this last pin across, you can see, is in a different location. We've got a thicker, beefier stop pin, and it's also moved back. So, and then the liners are thicker. So you've got a thicker hold on each side. So as far as location, and it's important to look down in here and actually see the recess liners and to see how much metal is actually going around that stop pin. Did you know the stop pin that little stop pin is one of the things that takes a lot of the force of the blade when you're cutting. So on this type of lock design, actually, the heel is not touching, or the liner, top liner lock on this one is not touching the heel. So 100% of the force when I cut, my hand is applying pressure, let's say 10 pounds of pressure. All that 10 pounds of pressure is flowing through the handle, flowing through the pivot and the stop bar. So all 10 pounds of pressure are on the pivot and the stop bar. And depending on which direction you're cutting or pushing, the stop bar sometimes can be taking all the pressure. And the pivot is a rotation point. So it's actually, when I'm cutting, I'm rotating on there, and all of that pressure is going into the stop bar. So the stop bar, and having a good, robust stop bar, is a very important part of the knife strength. And I'll just finish looking at this one. What do we got here? And then I'll contrast it to the other one, the older one. So here, the pin is almost directly above the pivot. So that directional force up to the heel here that's touching the stop bar, it's pushing almost exactly backwards into the meat of the liner. So you got enough meaty material on those liners that you're pushing into that. That's nice and strong. That's a good design, and it's better than what they had before. So what did they have before? They had, if you're able to see that, the recessed liner, how much material is around that stop bar, and which direction is the force going. So actually you need to see it here. From the stop bar, which is right there, to the pivot, and if you put a perpendicular line in between, it's the direction of the force. The rotational force is kind of up at an angle like that. So, and how much material is up above that liner. So that's actually not being supported by the meat of the liner, or enough meat. So that's actually when they went to the new one and they improved it, so they moved it back, and so that the pressure is going into the meat of the liner. That's a big, substantial engineering improvement, and I'd say this is more than twice as strong of a stop bar, including being a bigger stop bar, being positioned better, and thicker liners that are holding it. Substantially more than twice as strong as the stop bar in the original. So that's important to point out. Have we talked enough about the stop bar? Now, I wonder, and I bet you would like to know, does it matter? Because some stop bars are in front, some are behind, like the paramilitary too. Actually, I can show you. I got one right here. Look at the stop bar on this. It's actually behind the pivot. So the heel of the blade comes all the way back here to hit the stop bar. And does it matter where you have the stop bar, and what are the physics behind that? I bet you would like to know, so I'm going to make a new video talking about the physics. So subscribe now, come back later. I will make a video on that. I think that would be a pretty good video, talking about the physics of what's happening, how the force is flowing through the handle, through the pivot, through the stop bar, and different types of locks and stuff. You would like to know that, and so hit subscribe, come back later, and I will make that video for you. And I am an engineer. I am qualified to do that. Next is I'm looking at my list. I wrote it all down. We're gonna hit all of them. I counted 17. You can count along. I counted jimping as 4, as I mentioned earlier. And on that stop bar, we got thicker liners holding the stop bar. We got a beefier stop bar. The actual stop bar is thicker and beefier, and the position has been moved back to a better position. So that was 3 right there. We've talked about the stop pin. Next up is the liners. The liners are thicker, and also a substantial point to make is because you have a thicker liner, you also have a thicker leaf spring lock. The leaf spring is thicker, so that does make your lock stronger. You have a thicker material. The only thing locking this is the actual leaf spring, and here you've got a thicker leaf spring, so you do have more strength on that lock. Next is T8 screws. So the YouTubers, the knife market, we want to get rid of T6 springs. That's becoming more and more popular. We're demanding it more. It's the way we're going, and they have made an improvement here. So we've got a T8 torque screw there, and we got T8 here on the pivot. So the pocket clip and the filler tab, that's still T6, but for actual maintenance, so you'd only have to do that once if you're righty like me, or someone that never uses pocket clip like me. I never have to use T6 on this knife because I'm not going to move the pocket clip, it's already there. I never have to use T6. If you're a lefty, you only have to do it one time. Make your switch, and then you're done with T6 on this knife. So that at least is a improvement. I would like it, so we're just 100% T8. Let's keep pushing for that, keep going forward. But as far as maintenance on the Raccoon 2.0, we've got a T8 screw here now. So if you want to take this apart and clean the pivot, re-lube it, do maintenance, you can do it with a T8 screw. Just take that out, and you're going to be able to take this apart and do the maintenance with T8 only. Now, what else is there to point out? That is through 17. If you go back and count, that should be 17. And let's recap the major substantial engineering improvements. This is the new one. Thicker or beefier stop bar, beefier liners holding the stop bar, better stop bar position that drives the force into the meat of the liner, thicker lock leaf spring makes the lock stronger, thicker liners in general make the entire thing more rigid and stronger, and the back spring or back spacer construction is much stronger on the back spacer than the old standoff that they had on the old one. And their standoffs need to be wider, and they need two actual standoffs that are wider. It would have been fine, but on the old one it was actually below average. The new one is better than any standoff design. A back spacer is better, stronger, except it is heavier. So that recaps the substantial major engineering. This one is tough, and in their marketing they do talk about how tough it is. They know that they made it tougher. They had an engineer go from head to tail, or head to heel, to make this 17 improvements. That I agree, all 17 are an improvement and significantly stronger. How significant? I'm saying safely more than twice as strong than the old one. And I'm saying that safely because I actually think it's more than that. I think I could say, if I actually tested it, I paid for these. This isn't a destruction test. I'm not doing the hang the weights thing on knives that I have in my collection. That's not what this channel is. I'm also not an unboxing channel. I go in deeper, and 17 points, I went in deeper, and major engineering points. What am I talking about? We're talking about, where were we? I was going to jump into the tabletop next. We went over all 17 points. They had an engineer go through and make 17 improvements to this, and it's substantially 2.0, substantial version, generation 2 improvement. Now, why isn't the company kind of touting that a little bit more right now? Well, these aren't quite out yet. The ones that are out, I pounced on it kind of early. I went straight to Vosteed.com website and got it, and I had to wait like 5 days for it to come in shipping. If you've seen some other reviews, those people are affiliates that get a early knife, or maybe they knew the day it was coming out and they were ready and bought it. But I bought mine. We were talking about doing the actual testing to prove that it's more than twice as strong. How would you do that? So you've probably seen the Cold Steel hang the weights on the handle, but they were testing their lock strength, and they had it viced in like this. So to test the stop bar, you'd actually have to flip it over, vice it in, and hang the weights. And if that one held 100 pounds and this one held 500 pounds, you could say it's 5 times stronger. That's how you would actually test it. Next up is the finish the tabletop. So why is this a good knife? Or we talked about details of why it's better than the old one, but shape, ergonomics are better, but a lot of it is similar. So we'll finish doing a tabletop on the 2.0. The blades are the same dimensions. So we got 3 1/3 inch blade length, and your actual cutting edge, you're getting up to 3 inches even. And your overall is 7 3/4 inches. And then your handle length is 4.5. And then your actual, where you would put your fingers is actually up to here, is where you would put your fingers. 2 7/8. I would like that to be 3 inches. We were talking a lot about engineering changes. Is there anything I would do engineeringly different? I actually would go 1 more millimeter back, just so it's directionally putting the force directly back. I would have moved that stop bar even 1 millimeter more back. You could move this clip all the way to deep carry and drive that top screw into the metal backspacer, and then you get rid of this lanyard hole, and instead you'd integrate the lanyard hole into the new metal backspacer. You could do that, and then you get deeper carry, and you'd still have a lanyard hole. It would be included. You could either do it like the iridium. Do I have that here? Where it has a bar that comes out, or you can make where there's a little pin here and then there's a little hollow out. You could do that kind of thing into the metal. You have room in the heel of this metal backspacer to do that. Now I know you can't change the shape because you patented this specific shape, but doing what I just said with the clip, you wouldn't be changing the shape of the handle. So I think you could do that. I would do that on the movement, and other than that, they're swinging for the fences on a Generation 2 home run here. Highly recommend it. Let's finish the tabletop. So we did blade length, handle length. Let's do actual ergonomics. So put your thumb in there. Now my finger does fall. I wear large size gloves right where the slope starts. So I'm getting it does meet the criteria of getting my pinky on there in the standard hammer grip, but I actually saw Gideon's Tactical. He wanted another 1/2 inch there. I would agree with that. Just get your full pinky on there before the slope starts. I am getting just onto it right before the slope starts, but I think just a little bit more, you were almost there. So, but you can choke up here, which is how would you normally cut with this. I think I probably would choke up anyway. So when you choke up, there actually is plenty of space. You have this nice flat spot, and now with jimping, which feels nice, your thumb falls right under the jimping. Your forward finger or your thumb could land on there, and that actually feels pretty sturdy. Reverse grip, nice. You can put your thumb right over the top of that. Your chamfering feels nice and rounded. Everything feels really nice. The reason this was so highly touted, you actually saw I bought one of these and I did that video on mega hits in the market. So just based on what are people saying about the raccoon, words like goat, best, top, this was knife of the year territory. So that's the reason I included it in my mega hits territory. But what have they done here now? Substantially better. Substantially better. 2.0 version. Let's see. This one's got the micarta. There's other versions coming. They're selling out fast. In fact, this green version I just looked is not available right now. It's sold out with this nice, they're calling it copper dune. It's a dune is like sand, but sand can be different colors. Earth tone with earth tone looks really nice. And then you see the thumb stud's a little bit shinier and the backspacer's a little bit shinier. So that's like a accent color catching the light. You go bam, catch the light, bam. And actually, there was that cook that used to say bam. Was his name Emerald? I don't think he's on the air anymore. But he used to throw spices and herbs when he would throw it into the pot. He would go bam, because he was adding the flavor. Bam. Anyway, or maybe I could do what Neves do. What's Neves do? He goes bang, bang. Or Gideon's Tactical, what does he do? He does a wispy whoosh. Well, I kind of make that noise too, but I didn't get it from him. I think I put more power behind mine. I go whoosh. So I like to do that. Anyway, we're getting off track. We went over the 17 points. We went over the ones that were substantial engineering changes. We're doing the tabletop. We did ergonomics. We did the blade length. Oh, wait, that was an important one. So what do you think happens when you make the liners thicker and bigger and you add a big metal not big metal, a normal backspacer, which is metal anodized aluminum? You are going to get heavier. So 3.7 ounces, which is still in the sweet spot range. This knife is in the sweet spot size-wise, and still in the sweet range for weight. But your older one that had thinner, smaller liners, it had subpar standoffs, or below average, we'll say, and you saw it was coming in at about 3 even, rounded up. 3 even ounces, which is light. So if they were going for lighter when they were designing this, they got that. They made it lighter. They got it under 3 ounces, but I would rather have the strength all around. And I don't want them to make the blade thinner to make it lighter. I want the standard 0.12 is about standard EDC pocket knife stock thickness. That's what I want. Other people do like thinner. There's always individual preferences. A bug out is only 0.09, and that's popular. I like 0.12 as a starting point. And then this is almost a full flat grind. It keeps a little bit of the spine, so you're getting that full thickness pretty far out on the blade. I like that. That's my preference. But let's get our actual stock thickness. I've already checked this. It didn't change. And what am I actually reading here if I make it go? Right in front of the thumb stud, we are getting, roll it all the way in, I'm getting 0.118, 0.118 on the old one. And the new 2.0 should be about the same, and 0.118. So there you go. Your stock thickness has not changed on the blade, but the liner thickness has gotten thicker on the new one. Weight has gone up, but weight is still acceptable. Significantly stronger, 0.7 ounces heavier, worth every ounce. You could, if you went polymer backspacer, you could maybe save 0.1 or 0.2 ounces if you went that way. But I like the aluminum Do I like the bling? I like the bling. I like the jimping there. I don't mind 0.2 ounces to me. We're still at only 3.7. That is a good in the zone. Some people are weight is their thing, but so maybe you can make a polymer version for them. But I like the metal. I like this as it is. I wouldn't change that. As I mentioned, I would like to have the pocket clip, the top screw go into the back spacer. I would do that, and that would add you another fastener. Since you're down to one fastener, I would like 2 fasteners. But I know you do have internal pins holding that as well. And with your flex point, I don't see that as a problem, that there's one fastener. I like this as is better than any standoff design as far as strength. This is good. So, I don't want to ramble. This is going to be a kind of long video because we went through 17 points. It's already long to begin with, and I did a tabletop, and I did the caliper, I did the weight, I did the measurements, I did the ergo. We went deep. We went very deep into this. So I think we can wrap it up. I'm not seeing anything that I missed. I've gone over it all. So thanks for stopping by. I appreciate it. Come back again later, and I will do a physics discussion about stop pins and what happens when you move the stop pin around to all sorts of different positions, what's happening to the knife, where's the force going and when, because sometimes it changes. If I was choked up here, if I had my force directly lined up with the pivot all the way to the angle of force that I'm doing on the blade, I could have like all the force right on the pivot, and depending on how I'm pushing and at what angle I'm distributing the weight between the pivot and the stop bar, it's important to have a strong stop bar. Maybe reviewers should look at that more often. And sometimes on a liner lock, the liner is pushing against the heel, or the paramilitary 2, the compression lock, that is pushing against the heel, which takes some of the load from the heel of the blade straight into the liner. So it's not always just the pivot and the stop bar. Sometimes it can be the heel. Like on a slip joint, they don't even have a stop bar. The back spring is the stop bar, and that's actually the most toughest. When you whittling for hundreds of years, whittling used to be a bigger thing with slip joints, and those were slip joints are tough. You can whittle. You have to push hard on dried out wood. You have to put some significant force to whittle sometimes, and slip joints are very strong. Their stop bar is the back spring. Anyway, I will also do a video about the benefits of slip joints. That's another video. I keep promising videos, so come back later. I will deliver. Thanks for stopping by. I'm Skol EDC. And remember, always carry a knife.